Barcelona new star, Chu Tian's legendary rise begins. Episode 51, the plane landed in Barcelona. Because of the reason for winning the championship, once off the plane, Neymar also warmly invited everyone to his villa to dry patty. Perhaps because the championship had little to do with him, Rakitic prevaricated that there was still something to do and drove straight to flash people. Chu Tian thought about getting up early tomorrow to train, but he felt that this was a good opportunity to deepen the feelings of his teammates. At last, he still followed the Barca stars to Neymar's big villa. As soon as he arrived at the villa, Neymar ordered the people to take out a pile of wine. Although it is taboo for players to drink alcohol, it is not a big deal to drink it only occasionally, not for a long time. Messi smiled and patted his shoulder. Chu Tian, don't be afraid, just drink a little cocktail, and it's okay to drink a little bit to celebrate winning the championship. Chu Tian nodded. He remembered a lot of news reports. Messi's alcohol consumption is very good. After 12 years of Guardiola at the helm of Barca, the king of the ball has relented, like to invite Barca's teammates to drink, eat barbecue. There is also an uncertain rumor. Barca was afraid that Messi would be damaged in order to protect Messi, but directly sold the few drunkards of Deco. The atmosphere of the party grew warmer. Neymar slightly drunkenly took the wine bottle and found Chu Tian. I heard that you Yenhua people are also very good at drinking. Outcome. Neymar was drunk by Chu Tian. How can this Yenhua boy drink so much? At last, Neymar collapsed on the couch. Patty also left. Next. 4 o'clock in the morning. Chu Tian got up on time. Turn on the system. Ding, the host currently has 11 match points, you can start the draw. Ding, football superstar system mall opened. Reward mall opens a host package. System marketplace? Free package? Chu Tian Dashi, let's open the big gift package first. Gift package opening. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Batistuta heavy artillery shot fragment *4. Current fragment *5 can be crafted. Feelings, this system is generous once, directly send a full level of skills. Chu Tian did not hesitate. Synthetic. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Batistuta heavy artillery firing module. Moment. Chu Tian only felt a sour tingle in the back of his head. Gradually, the tingling sensation spreads to the thighs and calves. He felt his legs, full of strength. See what the system store sells. Chu Tian silently thought in his heart to open them all. A variety of fragments appeared in the mind. Beckham full moon curved knife free kick module, price, match points *500, blog camp turnover module, price, match points *888, Deluo pendulum passing module, price, match points *999, Robin Nietzsche and rush module, price, match points *666, Puyol's interception module, price, match points *500. Garincha. Ribery. There are even Door Gods Cassie, Buffon's modules. Chu Tian couldn't help but sigh. The price is too high, a La Liga game only has 5 match points. You can only see if the system will open other channels to get match points in the future. The current host match points are 11, and you can start the lottery once. Lottery. Winning shards by lottery is much more cost-effective than shards sold in the marketplace. The draw is complete. Congratulations to the host for winning. Match status buff drink. Effect. Increases the host's match status by 100%, lasts for 5 hours, and is only valid for the host. A plain bottle of mineral water appeared on the table. Chu Tian was a little confused. The lottery is not 100% out of the star module fragments? But the status buff drink is also good. 100% increase in race status. No professional player can guarantee that he will be at his best in the game. Due to various factors, the player's status will definitely fluctuate during the 90-minute regular game time. Now Chu Tian has an injury-immune physique plus status buff drink. On the pitch, isn't it the existence of the open hanging? I've got to save myself from drinking. Chu Tian carefully put the drink away. Pick up the bag. Get out the door and go to the training ground to train. The news of Barca winning the European Super Cup has made the world boil. Chu Tian's record of assisting a hat-trick made the media everywhere a little crazy. The birth of the new Xavi of Barcelona. Numerous letters also flew to the Barca Club La Masia building. A multitude of media and publicists came and went in and out of the La Masia building. They all wanted to get Chu Tian's interview rights. La Masia building. Top floor. Conference room. Several old men sat in leather chairs. Our little genius shocked the world. I think that the ordinary player contract signed by Chu Tian when he joined is not strong enough, and we need to change the new contract for him immediately. He doesn't have an agent yet, and we should hurry up and renew his contract, especially in terms of the length of the contract. Yes. Hold on, the Barca training is over. Luo Xiao found Chu Tian on the training ground of the first team. He looked embarrassed and handed over a dry towel. Chu Tian, I'm sorry, you have to go to the La Masia building, the old guys at the top of the club said to talk to you about a new contract. They want to renew your contract. Chu Tian wondered, isn't that a good thing? Luo Shou smiled and did not make a word. Chu Tian instantly realized, the contract that Barca changed may not be beneficial to himself. Without agents, the players were too passive in front of the club's top brass. After a moment of thought, he walked to the rest area and took his phone out of the cupboard. As it happened, the phone rang. The prefix of the incoming call number is the Noodle country code. Hey! My little genius, I am Mr. Mino. I'm in Barcelona right now. Is it convenient to meet? Convenient, Mr. Mino. Episode 52, A Quiet Private Dining Room in La Masia. Chu Tian met Mino Raiola. The short fat man warmly shook Chu Tian's hand. My little genius, Mr. Mino, is here to help you out. Chu Tian wondered, how did Mr. Mino know? Mino Raiola laughed, no club's big move can hide from my eyes, boy, your brilliant performance in the European Super Cup will definitely make the Barca executives revise your contract. Saying that, the short fat man waved. The little assistant immediately handed a brokerage contract to Chu Tian and respectfully said, Mr. Chu Tian, this is our sincerity, please look over. The brokerage contract is only 4 pages long. Chu Tian looked at it carefully. Professional sports transfer contracts, brokerage commissions and remuneration are charged 5%. Development of portrait title rights, brokerage commission and remuneration charged 3%. The implementation of the advertising endorsement is implemented, and the final decision is decided by the players themselves. And so on, a series of generous terms. It really made Chu Tian feel a little moved. He had previously learned about contracts with other stars. Far less than Mino Raiola's bounty. Especially in terms of commissions and player autonomy. Chu Tian was a little surprised, how could this agent, who is known as the football vampire, be so kind? He said slowly, Mr. Mino, Barca wants to renew my contract. Mino Raiola frowned, turned the glass, and said, the Barca executives want to trap you, like a player in the past, give you a salary that looks acceptable at present, and then work on the renewal period, and there will be sky-high liquidated damages. Chu Tian, good boy, I suggest you can slow down, wait for you to play in La Liga, I can let you get a better club contract. Mr. Mino is the best at doing this kind of thing. Dealing with the top of the club, just leave it to me. The short fat man was full of confidence, looking at Chu Tian, his eyes were frantic. Chu Tian waited in his mind, Mr. Mino was indeed very capable, and the terms of the brokerage contract were very sincere. He nodded, Mr. Mino, I think we can sign. What? My God. This is the most wonderful word Mr. Minogue has ever heard in his life. Mino Raiola stood up excitedly. Like a thirsty refugee in the desert, an oasis has been discovered. The glass table also trembled. Chu Tian. How wise. You can't go wrong with your choice. What a wonderful day, Mr. Mino received the most important customer of his life today. Suddenly, a voice interrupted the short fat man's praise. Wait a minute. Rosie walked in with 2 professional lawyers. They are the guardians of life that UEFA has designated for Chu Tian under the new regulations of UEFA. Everyone was afraid that Chu Tian would be fooled by the short and fat man. They were relieved after repeatedly checking the brokerage contract given by Mino Raiola. Luo Shou looked at Chu Tian, looked serious, and said gently, there is no problem with this brokerage contract. Chu Tian also looked at Luo Shou gratefully, although he was a staff member of the Barca club, he thought of himself everywhere. Moments later, Yenghua teenager and short fat man completed the brokerage contract at the dinner table. The two put down their signature pens and shook hands to thank each other. Wait, I'm going to take a picture with you. Click. The short fat man held up his mobile phone, stood next to Chu Tian, put on a smiling face, and took a photo. Then throw the phone to the little assistant. Post a photo of me and the little genius on my social media. Declare it to the world. Mr. Mino became Chu Tian's agent. The little assistant nodded. The short fat man's social media account, which has millions of followers, has only sent 6 messages so far. This group photo will definitely set off an uproar. La Masia building. Top floor. Several old people looked at the LED display, which showed a group photo of Mino Raiola and Chu Tian. Without anger, this vampire actually hitched a ride on the Yenghua boy, and there is no club in Europe that doesn't hate this dead fat man. He's hoarse, this fat guy laughed so ugly. Ugly, let's stop Chu Tian's contract extension first. It's not the time to deal with this cunning little fat man. I remember, this short fat man, who stirred up the relationship between Ibrahimovic and Guardiola. The reason why Mino Raiola is so resentful of European clubs is that he has broken the economic antagonism between players and clubs. He is the club's nightmare. He is one of the first player agents to blatantly demand sky-high salaries from the club, and he likes to squeeze the club's space. Because of the Ibrahimovic incident, he called Guardiola a dog and a coward. Chu Tian said goodbye to Mino Raiola. Back to the training ground. In the afternoon, the team will also have a group confrontation training match. He has to hurry up and practice. With a week to go, the opening battle for La Liga will begin. Be sure to accumulate a few more attribute points. Episode 53, Afternoon. On the training ground. Barca's group playing training session begins. Chu Tian is still the B team. After the performance of the European Super Cup, little Dennis, who was cooperating with him, did not dare to make a surprise on his own. Start handing the ball over to Chu Tian to sort out the midfield. The three young men on the B team's front line began to run reasonably and retreat. Under the rhythm control of Chu Tian, Team B faces Team A's unparalleled MSN forward. It didn't collapse as quickly as it did last time. It's just that the player's foot technique is not as delicate as the A team. Repeatedly lost the ball. It's been 10 minutes since the game started. Team B hasn't conceded a goal yet. Courtside. Enrique looked into Chu Tian's eyes, full of appreciation, and murmured, "Chu Tian seems to have improved again, especially the technology under his feet." Assistant coach Wensu nodded. "It is true that there has been progress, but it is not comprehensive enough. Perhaps the Yenguo boy has gradually adapted to the intensity of the game." "Hey! Coach, you see. Chu Tian, get rid of the action." On the pitch. Chu Tian held the ball forward. Rakitic chased after him. His speed was much faster than that of the Yenguo boy. The moment you want to stretch your feet. Only to see Chu Tian actually cut the ball directly to the inside of the back foot. Turn around. Avoided the rush. Rakitic was a little confused. When did Yenguo Jr. General have this ability to get rid of it? The next moment. Yenguo's body drew a circle like a reel. Chu Tian turned around with another outside foot cut. Facing the direction of the attack, passed the ball to Dennis Jr. This one picture. Everyone was stunned. Especially Messi and Iniesta. "Isn't this Harvey's signature circle, to get rid of people?" Enrique exclaimed. "When did Chu Tian learn this 360-degree circle to get rid of the action?" Seemingly simple. In fact, the comprehensive technical level of the players is extremely demanding. When Sui also showed a surprised expression. Perfect action. It's exactly like Harvey. I remember netizens calling Harvey's signature action the magic of love in circles. On the pitch. Dennis Jr.'s breakthrough was eventually intercepted. Football was out of bounds. The players all looked at Chu Tian with a look of disbelief. "I thought Chu Tian's vision and consciousness, passing the ball like Harvey. Now it's even like getting rid of the action." Chu Tian didn't say anything. He had just tried the European Super Cup mission reward, Xavi God level get rid of. "I didn't expect just to flash a thought of getting rid of it. The body is involuntarily, and the conditioned reflex is generally exerted. God level, get rid of it." This is the most often seen in the Barca collection of get rid of the action. It seems simple, but it is actually very difficult. Technical ball sense aside. A sense of direction and balance is even more important. There was once a Premier League player who imitated Harvey's turn to get rid of it, only to turn around, to take the wrong direction, to kick the ball into his own goal. The game continues. Rakitic was also touched. He figured it out. The Barca midfielder, the idea now is, can't let Barca adapt to himself. Instead, you should adapt yourself to Barca. Make a difference. So be it. He began to learn Chu Tian's model. Cooperate with Team A for pass control. Rakitic's passing level is good. The technology is also very delicate. Otherwise, they would not have been favored by Barca and would have been transferred with heavy money. But he didn't have Harvey's view of God. The ability to observe and run consciousness is also good, but compared to Harvey, the difference is too far. Iniesta and Busquets felt awkward. The same is true of the MSN combination on the front line. It's still possession for the sake of possession, passing for the sake of passing. There is no threat to Team B. The players of the B team, with all their hearts, handed the ball to Chu Tian. "Soon. Here's your chance." Mascherano steals Rakitic's ball. Stuffed the ball into Chu Tian. It's the time to switch between offense and defense. Team B quickly counterattacked. Chu Tian began to speed up. Passed the ball back and forth. Past two players from the A team who came forward to rush. He came to the top of the arc of the big penalty area. Dennis Jr. on the right, passing the ball to Chu Tian's feet. Busquets stood 5 yards in front of the Yenguo teenager. The Barca main back, with its precise card position, blocked the line of Chu Tian's pass. The moment Chu Tian received the ball, a decision was made. Batistuta's heavy artillery firing module. Non-stop ball. Swing your legs. The instep of the foot is pumped on the soccer ball. Bang. The power is very strong. One kick blast. Football is like a cannonball, skimming over Busquets' shoulders. The ball speed is extremely fast. The momentum is heavy. With the power of fierce violence. Slammed into the goal. Football sticks to the net. The net was lifted high by this great force. It took 2 or 3 seconds to return to its original form. Team B leads. 0:1. What an explosive long-range shot of this force. Team A's goalkeeper Bravo did not react at all, with a look of disbelief. He didn't expect Chu Tian to have such a long-range shot. This grain is far away. Power explosion. Violent. Succinct. It even reminded him of the word Barty Gold. The whole place was quiet. Enrique's eyes widened. This boy still has such a long-range shot. Chu Tian brought him a surprise. Too much. Episode 54. Rakitic was stunned. Why did this kid shoot at distance? The long-range shooting ability is stronger than yourself. Messi and Suarez also walked in front of Chu Tian. Curiously looking at the Yengwa teenager, Chu Tian, your small body can kick out a long-range shot with such explosive strength? How? Everyone in Barca's forward MSN combination is superb in their shooting skills. They asked themselves if they could not kick this explosive long-range shot full of violent aesthetics. Messi is also good at long-range shooting, unlike Batistuta's violent aesthetic. Most of the Plum King's long-range shots were long-range shots from the golden left-foot arc ball. Less long-range shots inside, preferring to pursue angles. Suarez, the world's #1 center, is better at fantastic running positions, a variety of goals, and in the field of violent long-range shooting, Batistuta is 2 different styles. The 3 of them were all quite curious about Chu Tian's blast. The referee called a halt to the training session. Enrique walked up to the court, looked at the Yengwa boy, and wondered, Chu Tian, when did you practice long-range shooting? Chu Tian thought for a moment and replied, I've always been practicing long-range shooting, but I prefer to pass the ball. Ter Stegen hurriedly said, why don't you ask me to practice? This kind of violent shooting is very challenging for the goalkeeper. Xiao said curiously, Chu Tian, you should practice with Ter Stegen. This kind of shooting is quite ornamental. The Barca stars are curious. Let Chu Tian try it one after another. Roberto pushed a cart of football straight up from the sidelines. Try a few more times. Goalkeeper Ter Stegen, standing in front of the goal, was eager to try. Chu Tian stood outside the forbidden area. Roberto threw the ball over. Chu Tian adjusted his position. A thought flashed, and subconsciously made an instinctive action. Swing your legs. The body is tilted. One kick blast. Football belt drafting crumbs. Straight to the left of the goal. Ter Stegen judged the direction of the shot. Stretch your body. Raise your hands. Pounced on the left side of the goal. The gloves touched the football. But because the ball speed is too fast. The shot is too powerful. The trajectory of football has not been altered. Straight into the net. The crowd was amazed. The explosive force under Chu Tian's feet is so great. Did he just use his left foot? I remember he was a right-footed player. The ball is too fast. The power is too explosive. Ter Stegen gave Chu Tian a thumbs up. Pulled the soccer ball out of the net. Come again. Roberto threw another football. Chu Tian took a few steps back. Want to see the best distance from Batistuta's heavy artillery shots? Adjust slightly. Another kick blast. The trajectory of the shot has a sufficient range of power. Faster ball speed. The power of the belt is even greater. Shoot straight into the goal. Ter Stegen blocked the ball this time. But he couldn't hold the football steadily. The power of football is too great. From between his hands, it bounced to the ground. Even through gloves. Ter Stegen also felt the palm of his hand tingle. What kind of shooting power is this? Continue. Roberto threw the ball quickly. Chu Tian's 1-foot burst. Ter Stegen high, save low gear. The more Barca stars looked, the more shocked they became. Every long-range shot of Chu Tian was filled with explosive power. A few older stars, from his shots, remembered one person, Batistuta. Purple Lily's heavy gunner. Chu Tian's long-range shots did not always score goals. 15 shots on goal from 20 shots, which is also remarkable. It's training, and the goalkeeper can concentrate and not be distracted by other players. Dennis Jr. and a group of young substitutes opened their mouths in surprise. Xiao looked at Chu Tian and said, it seems that Chu Tian will only shoot this foot from a distance, such as hanging shots, pick shots, arc shots, he will not. Messi laughed, enough, Chu Tian has this characteristic violent shot, which is already very good. He is not a player in the forward position. Mascherano nodded. The ball speed is too fast, the shooting action is also very concise. If Chu Tian suddenly comes to such a kick during the game, the opposing defender and goalkeeper will not be able to react. Iniesta also sighed. This is the first time I have seen a midfielder with such a strong long-range shooting ability. Chu Tian's red and blue jersey was gradually soaked with sweat. This feeling of explosion and long-range shooting. Invigorating. It seems to concentrate all the power on football. Shoot another kick through the goal. Batistuta's heavy artillery firing module, although not a 100% goal, caused a great test for the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper Ter Stegen frowned, miserable. Several times, he was the ball that his fingers pounced on. Sour hemp. Pain. Yenghua teenager, the power of long-range shooting is too great. Courtside. Enrique's face was incredulous. Chu Tian is not only like Harvey, but also has such a burst of extreme Batistuta. The Barca boss excitedly thought of an incredible squad. Iniesta is also older and injuries are frequent. Barca's midfield core, for at least a decade to come, emerged. Episode 55. After the group confrontation is over, Chu Tian insisted on staying on the pitch to train. Physical strength coach Cesc ran up and excitedly said, "Chu Tian, you should stop this high-intensity workout. I found out in the surveillance these days, your daily practice time is too long. You may already have a problem with your body. Little one, you're still very young, it's a critical stage of physical development, so stop and go back to rest." Chu Tian stopped moving, and the stallholder said, "I'm fine, Mr. Cesc." Cesc's tone was resolute. "You should check with me now." Chu Tian smiled helplessly and had to follow the physical coach to the medical room. The medical room is right next to the training ground. Moments later, Cesc held up the test report and couldn't help but marvel. All the physical indicators of the Yenghua teenager were very normal, and there was no obvious damage to the muscle ligaments. He didn't find a reason to continue to dissuade Chu Tian from interfering with Chu Tian's training. Chu Tian hurriedly thanked the physical coach and resigned. Then ran back to the training ground and continued to practice. His natural physical attribute is 78, which is even higher than many players in La Liga. The intensity of daily training, for him, does not have a negative effect on the body. After a single attribute reaches 80 or more, 3 training points are required for each additional point. Put simply, 30 hours of training. Chu Tian was able to raise the possession attribute to 81. On the training ground, the players and staff gradually dispersed. Only a lonely young man of Yenghua was left. The La Liga opener is about to begin. Barca's opponent in the opening match was Real Mallorca. Mallorca is the downstream team in La Liga, a club that has been established for 100 years and has been hovering in the relegation zone for all these years. Their best result was the Champions League runner-up in 98/99. Unfortunately, the club's shares have been reformed many times, and several major shareholders do not care about the team's performance at all, only to sell players to make money. At that time, Chita Ito'o played from this club and transferred to Barca. Super rich second generation, Mourinho, the strongest opponent Barca has ever had. When he was still attending the La Masia football school, the family bought most of Mallorca's shares and let the 20-year-old become the manager of the club. He refused, saying he would continue to study with Cruyff at Barca, and when he left Barca later, he was an assistant coach in Barca's first team. Mallorca, this authentic West Turtle Belly team. In the face of Barca all these years, there is no way to fight back. After the millennium, the two teams met 30 times. Mallorca won only 1, drew 1, and lost 28. Barca, facing this team, have an overwhelming record. La Liga is about to start, and the major media are also predicting, this season, Messi and Ronaldo, who can get the La Liga Golden Boot, who can get the Ballon d'Or. Madrid's Royal newspaper undoubtedly supports Cristiano Ronaldo. The media in other parts of the Matador country are claiming that Messi will definitely win the Golden Boot and Golden Ball in the new season. 2 days later, on the training ground, the stars lined up neatly. Assistant coach Winsu, announcing the starting lineup for La Liga's first game. Rakitic is still the main midfielder. Chu Tian did not appear in the starting list, he will be used as a substitute, with the team to play Mallorca. Enrique's coaching team, after careful consideration, decided, Mallorca is nothing more than a fish-belly team, it's a game without suspense, and it takes more time for Rakitic to fit in. Rakitic was bought by the club at a great price. And the Yenghua teenager, born like engraved with La Masia's genes, naturally integrated into the team, even more La Masia than La Masia. The club's cultivation of Chu Tian did not want to pull up seedlings to promote growth. Messi wouldn't be on the starting list when he was his age. After a morning of training, Barca's players have relaxed expressions, carrying suitcases with laughter. Accompanied by club staff, board a plane to the Balearic Islands. They will head to the Iberostar Stadium to challenge Mallorca away. An hour later, the team arrived in Mallorca. Barca stars showed up at the pickup gate. The reporters stood on the cordon, frantically leaning out, excitedly handing out microphones to interview Messi. Messi smiled shyly, stopped, and answered a few painless questions from the reporters. It was still early in the game and the club allowed players to give some simple interviews. Clubs in La Liga have never turned away from the sports media. The clubs themselves have stakes in several media outlets. Even if the report is randomly choreographed, it will only issue condemnation and condemnation. The mentality of Barca stars is very relaxed. They stopped and talked to the reporters. No one took this opponent to heart. Chu Tian was still at the end of the line. Chu Tian. Chu Tian. Suddenly someone shouted his name with a very unlearned Chinese. The other party shouted several times, and Chu Tian Kai reacted. Following the prestige, he found that it was several foreign journalists who called on him this time. Episode 56, Chu Tian smiled politely and walked over to the group of foreign reporters. Both the club and Mr. Mino have said that there is no harm in showing goodwill to journalists appropriately. One of the foreign journalists handed the microphone to the front. Chu Tian, your performance in the European Super Cup is really too bright, but we know that you are not in Barca's starting list. What do you think of Barca's current tactical system? Is he better suited to Barca's midfield position than Rakitic? This is a tough question. Very provocative in nature. The reporter wanted to deliberately guide the young man of Yenghua to talk about topics that attracted attention. Why can't such a brilliant performance of the European Cup appear in the starting list? This question was intended to provoke Chu Tian. Barca's tactical system and Rakitic? Here it seems to be two problems, but it is actually a serial set. It didn't matter if Chu Tian answered yes or no. The journalistic media will soon have controversial reports. For example, the genius of the Yen Kingdom doesn't take Rakitic in his eyes, or Yenghua genius is not optimistic about the Barca system, thinking that Rakitic is more qualified for Barca who have lost control. Chu Tian knew that this was a trap. He smiled, didn't answer, and turned to leave. Why don't you leave without talking? These foreign reporters seemed very disappointed, and their purpose did not succeed. The young man of Yenghua was not good at cheating. But they didn't give up. Turning his head to stare at Barca's blonde midfielder, they turned to Rakitic and asked, Rakitic, many fans have begun to call for Enrique to start Chu Tian. What do you think? Chu Tian again? When Rakitic heard this, he was vaguely displeased. He had already received praise from the media, but he ran out of the questions asked by a few reporters. Facing the camera, Rakitic said slowly, I was once the core of Sevilla, the Europa League champion midfielder, the best team in Europe. Barca club spent 50 million euros in transfer fees to bring me in. They did not let me sit on the bench. As for the starting list, I follow the arrangements of the club's coaching staff. Some fans called for Chu Tian to start, which does not represent the ideas of all fans. Chu Tian is a very talented player, but he is too young, and in La Liga, there is still a lot to learn. Say it. Rakitic had a gloomy expression and strode away. Indignant in my heart, when did these media compare me with the young general of Yenghua? He just played one game. I've been through years of League One and European competitions. None of the 10 young generals of the Yen dynasty were worth as much as me alone. Thank you. Rakitic. The reporters were excited, their expressions as if they had dug up a treasure, and they pulled out their voice recorders and repeated the words of Barca's new core midfielder. The pen flew quickly over the small book. After the Barca crowd returned to the hotel, Chu Tian returned to the room. From the suitcase, a small mat 2 meters long was taken out. I immediately did strength training on the ground. Roberto, who lived with him, put down the game console and couldn't help but exclaim, Chu Tian, do you still have this thing? Are you ironclad? Tomorrow is going to be a game, don't you save your stamina? Chu Tian smiled, it's okay, my physical recovery is very fast, and I am a substitute. Barca play Mallorca, there may not be a chance for me to play. Roberto nodded, well, if nothing else, I may not have a chance to play. Say it. He threw the console aside. This Barca golden oil jumped out of bed, followed Chu Tian, and did strength training on the ground. Chu Tian's current free distribution attributes were 2 points. Just train for 1 more day. You will have 1 more attribute point. The possession stat has reached 80, and to increase by 1 point, you need to consume 3 attribute points. The coaching staff room is arranged on the 12th floor of the hotel. When Enrique returned to the room, he saw a newspaper on his desk. There is still residual temperature on the paper. He looked at the headline in the newspaper and frowned. Barca's new core points out that the new person is insufficient. He still needs to learn a lot. Introduction. Barca midfielder Rakitic believes that Chu Tian's current ability is not worthy of Barca's starting list. He moved from Sevilla to Barcelona for 50 million euros, taking over Xavi's place and not sitting on the cold bench. Yenwood Junior High School will be too young, there are still many things to learn. The more Enrique looked at it, the angrier he became, and he couldn't help but scold. Rakitic, are you an idiot? You don't see that this is a Mallorca reporter provoking? Bang! The Barca boss slapped his hand the desk. It startled the assistant coach. When Sue stepped forward, glanced at the newspaper, and explained, it may be that Rakitic himself did not notice, and it may not be the truth that the reporter caught the handle, and his original words may not mean this. Episode 57, Saturday at 7 p.m. The Barca team came to the Iberostar Stadium, the home of Mallorca. The exterior of the stadium looks very beautiful, like a bowl. Enrique came to the lounge of the pre-match press conference. The Mallorca club is not spending the money on equipment. The set of the pre-match press conference was very rudimentary, not at all like a La Liga level conference. After the Barca boss appeared, a calm break will start to get noisy. The reporters asked frantically, Mr. Enrique, what is the difference between Chu Tian and Rakitic in terms of technical characteristics, and is the level of Chu Tian's player the same as Rakitic said? Mallorca's coach Vicente, sitting on the sidelines, watched the good play with schadenfreude. Enrique's expression was very helpless, and he replied, Chu Tian is still very young, and there are still many things he needs to learn. The reporters did not spare, and the cannons were full of words. Chu Tian assisted in a hat-trick in the European Super Cup, helped Barca achieve an equalizer, what else does he need to learn? In the European Super Cup, both goals conceded were indirectly related to Rakitic, why he was still in the starting list. Why didn't Chu Tian make the starting list? Barca are facing Mallorca away this time, what do you think of this game? Faced with these strings of questions, Enrique only felt one head too big. He simply ignored the two provocative questions at the front. Chu Tian didn't make the starting list? Messi was not in the starting list when he was so old. We paid great attention to the development of young players. We'll give the opportunity to play. The growth of players is very important. It's great to be playing against Mallorca again. They're an opponent who deserves to be taken seriously, and Barca will go all out to fight. Back to the locker room. Enrique began to fiddle with the pieces on the tactical board. Although our opponents are far inferior to Sevilla and their team's overall offensive is not strong, we should not take it lightly. Their number 17 player, right back Arana, scored 8 goals last season. It's fast and we're going to focus on the defense on the right. And Mallorca, the number 19 player, who is at the back, and the French youngster Sissoko, is a very talented new reinforcement, and I watched the footage of him in the warm-up match, and the interception ability and the ability to shoot the ball are very strong. The Barca boss patiently explained the tactics to the players. Rakitic glanced at Chu Tian, who was sitting in the corner, and clenched his fists. Secret passage in my heart, Chu Tian, I want you to know who is the new core of Barca's midfield. Moments later, the staff knocked on the door to remind them to prepare for admission. Enrique put down his pen, everyone, go all out, go all out. The stars shouted in response. Then walk into the dressing room and line up in the players' tunnel. CTV5. CTV5. Audience friends, welcome to the first opener of La Liga this season. I am Duan Xian, the commentator of this commentary. The two sides of the match are Mallorca versus Barca. Players from both sides have already entered, and the highlight of this opener is also full. Although Mallorca is a mid-1 and lower-end team, they are strong defensive, and the two encounters with Barca last season were a 1-goal defeat, and Barca have not taken a big lead. Mallorca's formation is 4-2-3-1, Barca's formation is still the classic 4-3-3. The young player that our Yenhua audience is most looking forward to, this time still did not appear in the starting lineup. The camera was also given to Chu Tian. He sat on the bench, his expression was very calm. We hope that Rick can give him time to play. The referee tossed out a coin, determined the direction of the goals of both sides, and the game started immediately. Iberostar Stadium. The referee blew the whistle for the start of the game. Barca took the lead in kicking off in the center circle. Suarez passed the ball back to Rakitic. Rakitic was unusual. There was no forward push with the ball. Instead, he began to try to integrate into Barca's passing. With Iniesta, Busquets began to pass the coordination. He also learned Chu Tian to kick the ball. Unhurried. However, the strength of his running position and passing, the line, made Iniesta feel very awkward. The Mallorca players' pressing attitude is not very strong. The manager lets them base themselves on defense and save their physical strength. So the midfield's interception is not strong. Rakitic's passing was not much disturbed. It looks a bit flowing. At the back of Barca, Busquets spread his hands several times, forward, Rakitic, MSN in the pole position. There are many lines that pass forward. Rakitic still passed the ball back to his back. His idea was to infiltrate slowly. Rakitic, is this learning Xavi's controlled rhythm? Well, there's a lot of room to pass forward, he's still going to have to fall in midfield, and Mallorca's players look relaxed. As we all know, Barcelona in the Xavi period is through continuous horizontal and vertical transmission, so that the opponent's running space is compressed, and then through the overall rhythm change. It has a depressing effect. Rakitic is now a stage of learning Xavi, which seems a bit rusty, but his personal skills are still very good. During the CTV5 live broadcast, Chu Tian's tone was also mixed, with a little surprise. Episode 58. Rakitic's offensive capabilities are comprehensive. The technology is also delicate. Learning Xavi's passing control also looks similar. Although it can't drive the rhythm of Barcelona. But the level of Mallorca players is also low. Soon, Barca began to besiege Mallorca's restricted area. The game came to the 15th minute. Rakitic spotted a gap and crossed diagonally to the right. The football came to Messi's feet. Mallorca's players whispered, "Not good." More than a dozen fiascos in previous years have told them, as soon as Messi takes the ball, it is dangerous. Messi began to break through with the ball. Show the world's first cadence. In just a few seconds. Left and right. Messi made 2 consecutive emergency stops to change direction. Easily beat 3 Mallorca defenders. The audience erupted in fierce applause. Even the fans of the home team are marveling at the wonderful performance of Messi. Messi pulled out Mallorca's defensive gap, followed by a straight kick. Football rolls against the ground like a penalty area. The Mallorca goalkeeper is on the verge of a great enemy. Suarez interspersed and broke the door with 1 foot. 1:0. Barca lead the. There was an uproar. Most of the stands were Mallorca fans. Because this stadium restricts the admission tickets of Barca fans. There was little cheering. It's so easy. Messi's breakthrough is really wonderful. Suarez and Messi embraced each other. Celebrate this goal. Rakitic also stepped forward excitedly. He glanced at Chu Tian, who was sitting on the bench and clapping. There was pride in his eyes. It seems to be telling Chu Tian, Rakitic can also learn from Xavi and play Barcelona passing. Chu Tian felt Rakitic's gaze and smiled slightly. Behind the score, the Mallorca manager quickly made tactical adjustments. He yelled at the pitch. Mallorca restarted the ball in the middle circle. They started a crazy frontcourt squeeze. Press hard. Mallorca's players wanted to equalize quickly. Their number 17 was fast and Moreno split the ball. Right-wing defender Alana received the ball and began to break through on the flanks. He was extremely fast, carrying the ball to the corner of the wing and crossed from the bottom of his foot. Unfortunately, halfway was destroyed by Peak, who jumped high. The football came to Busquets' feet. Barca have a great chance to strike back, 2 people on the other side of the half. Barca looked up at the back and passed the ball to Rakitic. At this time, the Barca players who returned to the defense began to run quickly to the front court. After receiving the ball, Rakitic did not observe the position of his teammates and directly pushed sideways. But the ball is less powerful. The line is also too close to the opponent's back. Iniesta did not receive the ball. What a shame. At the back of Mallorca, Sissoko stopped the ball. On the scene, the Barca players who were preparing to counterattack were in a chaotic position. Sissoko's 1-foot-long pass found Alana. Barca is dangerous. Hit back in the process of counterattacking. No matter how strong the team is, it is powerless to return to heaven. Arana was not offside. Teammates followed suit. 2-1 in front court. Face goalkeeper Ter Stegen directly. Football passes back and forth. Come to the 12 yards position in the Barca penalty area. Back at the feet of Alana. 1 kick to shoot. Break open the doors of Barcelona. 1:1. Mallorca equalized. Cheers from the audience. This is the home of Mallorca. The shouts of the home fans drowned out the sighs of the Barca fans in the corner of the stands. Alana led Sissoko and danced against the stands' fans. Mallorca haven't scored a Barca goal in 5 years. 5 years ago, against Barca under Guardiola, the goal they scored was still a Oolong goal. Coach Vicente jumped up in excitement. Mallorca's full name is Royal Mallorca Club. CTV5 Live Room. Chu Tian's tone was a little anxious. Barca's loss of the ball is too careless. Rakitic, this ball is completely unnecessary to hand over to Iniesta. There is no one in front of him. At that time Mallorca only had a defender at the back of the half. Rakitic can completely carry it himself. MSN is also in place immediately, directly 4-2. It's a pity that I was caught off guard in the counterattack. The Yenhua fans who watched this game also did not understand. Rakitic, this is Don Shergona. I didn't get Xavi's essence at all, and this pass was too casual. It's all about passing for the sake of passing, but without looking at the situation on the pitch. I'll play instead, and I can take the ball and run a few steps and pass to Messi, who catches up. What a great opportunity. Hey, courtside. Enrique tugged at his head, his face full of sorrow. Only a few minutes ahead, he was equalized. Mallorca, this bone is hard to gnaw. The Barca boss has also seen that Rakitic's mentality is in trouble. This guy, why should you learn Chu Tian's playing style? Is it to prove that he is stronger than Chu Tian? On the pitch. After an unexpected equalizer, Mallorca's morale was in full swing. They are full of confidence. Coach Vicente was also sane and did not continue to give offensive orders. It's about making the players retract. Don't waste your energy trying to grab the ball. All of them returned to the penalty area. They have to keep this point. Episode 59, after 45 minutes of battle in the first half. The referee blew the whistle at halftime. The score did not change. Still 1-1. Inside the locker room, Enrique tapped on the tactical board and loudly emphasized, "We need to pull Mallorca's team out of their defensive system. We use passing and running, but our midfielder now only has passing and the front line only runs. Rakitic, cooperate more with Iniesta, don't insist on conduction, you play in your original style." Enrique shook his head helplessly. Against a downstream teammate like Mallorca, as long as Rakitic plays normally, the team can win. Rakitic nodded. The second half continued. The scene still didn't change. Mallorca's entire army was in the penalty area. The iron barrel array, not so good to break. Mallorca manager Vicente has clearly learned from Sevilla's experience in the European Cup. Barcelona without Xavi is not enough to be afraid. He lunged at the pitch and yelled at the out-of-position defenders. Messi repeatedly wanted to find opportunities, but he found two Mallorca players clinging to him. As soon as the ball is close, there will also be two players to assist in the defense. The ball fell at the feet of the Barca team. Couldn't find any chance to break the door. The MSN combination was stared at to death. The opposing back, Sissoko, repeatedly destroyed Rakitic's passing line. His clean shoveling also made Rakitic suffer a lot. Chu Tian on the bench suddenly saw a bright light. In the past life, Merak, a French little black back named Sissoko, will be famous in the Premier League a few years later, won the league championship, won the World Cup, and is one of the strongest B2B all-round midfielders in Europe. Well, his nickname is Premier League Black and Hard. Time passes minute by minute. Rakitic attempted two long-range shots, neither of which were within range of the goal. Boos rang out in the stands. Enrique frowned. If the first game of La Liga is forced to draw by Mallorca, Barca's start to the league will be very unfavorable. This was accompanied by pressure from the club's top brass. There is also media criticism. The Barca boss looked decisively at the bench and shouted, "Go warm up." Chu Tian nodded, took off his coat, ran to the sideline, and began to warm up. Chu Tian has begun to warm up. Barca can't open the situation for a long time, and Enrique is going to send him to play. The narrator Duan Xian's tone could not hide his excitement. This will be a historic moment again. Yenghua landed in La Liga for the first time. The score came to the 70th minute. Mallorca once again blocked Rakitic's long-range shot. The football flew out of bounds. The referee blew the whistle and signaled a substitution. Rakitic glanced at the LED card. "Change me again? Is it Chu Tian who replaced me again?" He didn't stop and trotted to the sidelines. This time facing the camera. He looked cold and high-fived Chu Tian. Chu Tian glanced up at Mallorca's night sky. "The stars are shining." Immediately after, we stepped on the green field. Alves threw the ball out of bounds. The football came to Chu Tian's feet. No one is watching. He went straight with the ball. After 6 days of training, his possession attribute reached 82. The lifting effect is very obvious. He gradually felt that he was running with the ball, and he became more relaxed. The improvement of each attribute point is particularly great. Mallorca's back, Sissoko appeared and blocked his line directly. Chu Tian smiled slightly. From God's point of view, he already knew where Sissoko was blocking. The Yenghua teenager slowed down slightly. Sissoko stretched his feet forward. Only to see Chu Tian cut the ball on the outside of his foot. The football flicked to the left and turned. The Yenghua boy directly crossed Sissoko. A flowing action. Succinct. Highly efficient. Sissoko was dumbfounded. He had just completely blocked Chu Tian's passing position, and the timing and speed of his feet were also very accurate. I didn't expect Chu Tian to do this trick. Mallorca did not give up at the back. This black and hard who later became famous in the Premier League, the ability to turn is also extremely strong. He turned his head and chased after him. Extremely fast startup. A few steps caught up with the Yenghua teenager. From God's point of view, Chu Tian sensed Sissoko's feet stretching from behind. He cut the ball inside another foot. Turn around again. Defused the opponent's back of this rush. Directly let Sissoko lose his position, black and hard, completely confused. What's going on with this Yenghua teenager? How can it be so strong? This seemingly simple action is extremely demanding on the ball carrier's sense of ball, balance, position, and direction. The magic of love in circles? Chu Tian, this wonderful get rid of the action. The requirements for their own rhythm changes are also very high. The audience erupted in warm applause. Mallorca fans have never skimped on applause for the wonderful performances of Barca players. Courtside. Enrique excitedly grabbed assistant coach Wensu. See? Chu Tian can easily use this move in La Liga. When did he learn this trick? On the field. Iniesta was equally shocked. This is Xavi's signature move. Chu Tian actually made it so smooth. In just a few seconds, the destruction of the other party was dissolved twice. At this time, Chu Tian turned around. Pulled out the gap. Knocked the ball across to Iniesta. Start plugging in yourself. Episode 60. Iniesta received the ball. He didn't have to look up, he already knew where Chu Tian was inserted. This is the tacit understanding of La Masia's homogeneity. Straight up. Pass the ball to the Yenghua teenager who ran out of the position. From God's point of view. In an instant, Chu Tian saw that the MSNs on the front line were all surrounded by Mallorca players. Messi, in particular, was closely watched by 3 people. The opposing goalkeeper's position is very high. 35 meters from goal. Several lines appeared in the field of vision. One of them. It's golden. It is a golden straight line. The end of the line is the goal. The football rolled to the feet. Iniesta's pass was as precise as the force and strength. Chu Tian did not stop the ball. Swing your right leg. The body leans to the left. Turn around. Waist and instep at the same time. One kick blast. Batistuta heavy artillery shot. Bang. Everyone in the audience held their breath at this moment. They all heard the instep of Chu Tian's feet, the loud sound of smoking on the football. Football is like a cannonball. Left the turf. It's a heavy cannon. With unmatched might. The speed is like a meteor. Crash into the goal. In Chu Tian's eyes. This grain is shot long range. There is no flickering. Immaculately pasted with golden lines. Straight to the goal. Mallorca's goalkeeper looked horrified. No reaction at all. It's so fierce. Too domineering. Football burrowed into Mallorca's net. 2:1. Chu Tian's long-range shooting. Helping Barca lead again. The audience was shocked. Immediately after, the fans in the stands invariably let out exclamations. It's incredible. This grain is far away. Stirring. Courtside, Enrique waved his hands excitedly. Wensu and the players on the bench cheered. As soon as Chu Tian came on, we were ahead again. Even Ter Stegen couldn't save the long-range shot. Mallorca's goalkeeper didn't react at all. Barca morale is boosted. Rakitic on the bench looked surprised and his eyes glazed over. Chu Tian's long-range shot, he could see very clearly. Too domineering. Unsolvable heavy artillery shots. This little guy in Yenghua seems to be really much stronger than himself. CTV5 Live Room. The screen replayed the footage of Chu Tianyuan shooting through the door. Duan Xian eased up in shock. Extremely excited, this is the first goal of Yenghua in La Liga. Incredible. It's incredible. Chu Tian is 35 meters away from the goal. Chose a long-range shot. The power has sunk. Stone breaks the sky. The football didn't change direction or angle in the air, it just exploded into the goal like a cannonball. Jaw-dropping. Beautiful. Pretty, pull up the mountain and be angry. Chu Tian's long-range shot. Tough and overbearing. Unbeatable. The barrage of Yenghua fans, in an instant, also covered the screen. Mom, am I watching a sci-fi movie? Digging, Chu Tian. This long-range shot, too hanging. Unbelievable. We Yenghua people in La Liga can also kick such a powerful long-range shot. National football. Don't believe in rumors. Don't spread rumors. National football. This is really a science fiction movie. His turnaround gets rid of the action much like Xavi. His shot. Heavy artillery shots. Too much like Batistuta. Long-range shots don't necessarily break the bus. But heavy artillery will definitely break the bus. Chu Tian Bull. Chu Tian, 666, 666666. Mallorca's players looked frustrated. Just hold out for another 20 minutes and they'll get a draw. The goalkeeper pounded the turf in chagrin. He didn't react. What annoyed him even more was that even when he reacted, he couldn't judge the right direction. The power of this shot, the speed of the ball, is also very rare in his years of La Liga career. If Barca can win this crucial 1 point, the future relegation battle will be easier. Sissoko found it unbelievable. He was Mallorca, who had just moved from League 2, and felt in the first half of the game that Barca were just like that, and as long as they defended MSN well, they could stabilize the game. As a result, a young man from Yenghua was killed. Not only did he get rid of him twice in a row, he also kicked out such an earth-shattering long-range shot. You know, Sissoko's excellent defensive performance in the friendly match a month ago made the Italian giants Juventus suffer in the front court. Mallorca coach Vicente, with his hands on his bald head, a look of amazement, he had watched the live broadcast of the European Super Cup before, and thought that the Yenghua teenager could never hold the ball under Sissoko's watch. But this hot country teenager is far more powerful than when he was in the European Super Cup. Simply incredible. Both have Harvey's god-level ability to get rid of it. And such a strong long-range shooting ability. Iniesta ran excitedly to Chu Tian, bent down, and carried the Yenghua teenager on his back, shouting at the Barca fans in the corner of the sidelines. Chu Tian also smiled and raised his hand high. Countless cameras are aimed at the two. The narrator Duan Xian was very emotional and could not contain the tone of excitement. Iniesta carried Chu Tian. At this moment, I remembered the little Luo Bei Messi. It's a football classic. This is the legacy of Barcelona.